Three-time Mayor Mira Bowser will not seek a fourth term. What is her legacy for DC, and what does that next mayoral race look like? Black Friday was still a bust, but consumer hardships and revolts culminated in a large-scale Target protest in Columbia Heights, attracting national figures. All this and more on What's at Stake. Good morning, and welcome to the DC Takeover edition of What's at Stake. I'm your guest host, Kimon Freeman, representing We Act Radio. Thank you for tuning in. We are joined today by a very powerful community lawyer. His name is Ari Teresa, a civil rights attorney specializing in zoning, land use, and urban development. He's the principal of Stoop Law in Anacostia, where he represents public housing residents and homeowners in disputes with government agencies, nonprofits, and private developers. Mr. Teresa has successfully appealed zoning approvals, sued developers, and currently leads the Bethesda African Cemetery desecration case and a 46 homeowner construction defects action in DC. He has served as an adjunct professor teaching land use, urban planning, critical race theory, and urban politics. A fourth generation Washingtonian, he is deeply rooted in the communities he serves. Ari, welcome to What's at Stake.
Thanks for having me, Kamon.
Now, as we said, Mayor Muriel Bowser is not seeking a fourth term, so she will not be matching the record of the mayor for life, Marion Barry. And we're here to talk about what is her legacy, what was the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of what she is leaving Washington, D.C. Now, me personally, I think Mira read the handwriting on the wall and knew she wouldn't win. Plus, securing the billion-dollar stadium deal set her up for life. That's my position. Ari, what do you think Mira Bowser's legacy would be for DC and what the mayoral race will look like and shaping up going into next year?
Well, I think that Bowser has a pretty large legacy. She served for a very long time. I can't think of another mayor in the country, at least in modern times, I'd say since she's been in office, that served as long. Um, and when she came in, I can remember her very first State of the District address, and she promised to end homelessness. I don't know if anyone remembers that promise, that by the year 2020, she would end homelessness in the District of Columbia. Um, and I think just looking back on it, it's a quaint promise to make. It's kind of quaint, like, oh, I'm going to end homelessness. I don't even think the mayor-elect of New York would promise to do something like that in this day and age. And I think Bowser's legacy is kind of because she switched from that. She didn't keep to that. She moved to production of housing, which was, maybe I'm not going to end homelessness, but I'm going to create 36,000 new homes and um, and also give people a fair shot or a fair opportunity, but forget ending homelessness. And I think that her legacy is that switch from kind of this quaint promise to end homelessness to technocratic governance of, well, I'm going to produce X number of homes, and the stats show it's going to lower rents or whatever. Um, and you see that, like, even very progressive mayors now speak that language. They don't speak the language of ending homelessness. They speak the language of producing a large amount of homes. And that's straight out of Bowser's playbook. Even the mayor-elect of New York, Zoran Mamdani, I think I'm saying it right.
Zoran Mandani.
Zoran Mamdani.
Mhm.
Um, I think that he made a very similar promise about housing, which was, I'm going to produce X number of houses, right, or X number of new units, make some of them affordable, or make them affordable. And I think that's Bowser's legacy. Is that kind of governance versus kind of a more grassroots, people-centric governance, to more of a, well, this is what the data says, and you know, this is what we're gonna try to accomplish, and if it ends homelessness or not, like I don't really know, but we're gonna give people a fair shot if we follow these rules. And I think unlike other mayors, because I think this is a shift that's happened, across the country, from this kind of quaint governance to technocracy, to a technocratic government. I think unlike other mayors, Mayor Bowser was able to kind of ride that shift and bridge it and stay in office and stay relevant. Because a lot of mayors came in during that time period, and through that shift, and they went away. They were voted out, but for whatever reason, the mayor was able to stay in office through that shift. And I think that is a credit to her skills as a politician, and her relevance in DC.
She actually ran unopposed in her, I believe, in her second term. Ran unopposed is just, and that's almost unheard of. So yes, she's the second longest serving mayor. The only other mayors had served 2 terms. But I'm glad you brought up the housing because I had completely forgot that promise. And it bears repeating that Mayor Mandani in New York City was quoting Mario Cuomo, excuse me, when he said that you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. So God forbid us another politician who's broke a campaign promises. Sounds eerily familiar. But we need to point out and analyze what she was able to do during the 3 terms that she was mayor. First and foremost, for me, I need to point out that more people voted against Muriel Bowser in the last election than voted for her. Because some people are under the assumption that she would have been expected to win for a 4th term, and the polls do not bear that. If you talk to the majority of people on the street, I did street reporting at 8th Street Festival. That's a sample polls, and she would have lost by a landslide. And in the last election, the data shows that she, in fact, had more people vote against her than voted for her. But unfortunately, Robert White and Trayon White, Barry White, and Maurice White all split that majority opposition vote, which is why ranked choice voting is so important and why she was so strongly against it. And now that she's even more unpopular with the capitulation and destruction of Black Lives Matter Plaza and what have you. In fact, Laura Ingraham from Fox News on air said that Muriel Bowser is the best mayor DC ever had, right? And Donald Trump is on record commending her, saying how great of a job that she was doing because she's working with the administration. And then somehow, some way, some of these bougie Negroes with good government jobs will tell you that that is good, that somehow, doing whatever Trump tells you to do and hope for the best is great leadership. And I beg to differ. But so now that she's even more unpopular and no chance of splitting the votes of that majority opposition, she wisely, in my opinion, quit while she was ahead. And so she has accomplished most of what she already set out to do, from the Exxon nuclear power company buying out Pepco, which created a lot of wealth for a lot of people and stockholders at the time, including herself, gutting ERAP and TOPA, to billions in free taxpayer money to a billionaire for a new stadium with the thinly veiled promise of affordable housing construction, which has now morphed into talks of building a casino. Right? No mention of casino when we was protesting and delivering testimony for this deal. They said nothing about casino at that time, but now they got the green light. It's whatever, right? And then, of course, her international contacts from Qatar, what have you, has set her up for life. So she's good. So, and that's a capsule of what she was able, some of the damage that she done in the city. One of the things that I think that she did well for the city was when she did, in fact, stand up to Trump, when she did, in fact, declare 1600, the Black Lives Matter Plaza. That was an international line in the dirt that attracted people from all over the world that came to see that, including Good Trouble himself, John Lewis, who had glowing comments about what that meant. One of his dying visits, public appearances, was at the Black Lives Matter Plaza, commending her for the creation of that. So we have to acknowledge that. And then I also need to acknowledge, because I was part of the press conference and the rolling out of the Office of Racial Equity. Unfortunately, just like Black Lives Matter Plaza, the Office of Racial Equity was just a paper tiger. It was just symbolism, and it was not designed to actually change policy. And unfortunately, that has been too much of the case when we talk about the legacy of Muriel Bowser in terms of benefiting of the people. Those are that's my good, bad, and ugly report on her. Now, do you have anything that you can say that the mayor did well?
I think she underused her agencies in some places like the zoning commission and then also the Office of Racial Equity. I'm trying to think of things that I agree with her on. But I think, I think for me, it's just the fact that she was able to stay in power so long. And I think her legacy remains to be seen. I know she's built up a lot of allies and she has a lot of people that she's made a lot of money, a lot of people in government positions. And it'll be interesting to see how DC transitions from that. I know that there's McDuffie and Janice running. And I think a lot of her legacy is going to be determined by who wins. If McDuffie wins, then it's almost like we will have had 20 years of the Green Team, Fenty, Bowser, and McDuffie. And it's just going to be continuity in DC. I think status quo, business as usual. Um, but I think if Janice were to win, that would kind of turn things upside down because I can't imagine her keeping a lot of the people that Bowser has put in place. I mean, in terms of her legacy, it's difficult to know what that truly is until the race occurs. But in terms of something that she's done well, I mean, I would just say keeping her team together for this long. There's been scandals.
There have been scandals.
There's been scandals, but her ability to weather these scandals and whether even like the greater economic shift as cities became more neoliberal, her ability to like weather these things, I think, I don't know if it's a positive for the people, but, you can't deny her ability as a politician and as a leader to stay in power, which I think, is the goal for a lot of politicians, which is just to stay in power. And she did that throughout varied times and a lot of obstacles and a lot of difficulties. So speaking good about her, that's what I would say is just that um, she's very very skilled.
Well, one of the things I have to say that she did good. A lot of people would be surprised to learn that the mayor and I was actually acquaintances before she became mayor, and she took me to see Lil Wayne at the MCI Center. You know, and Lil Wayne, she's a big Lil Wayne fan, and Lil Wayne, as you know, was what he was received a pardon, if you will, from
Yeah,
Trump. So these are, these Trump-like people. Dr. Edward Chapman, a community doctor, longtime community doctor here in Washington, D.C., said that we have a number of black people in office who was much a detriment to our community as Trump. And we just need to acknowledge this, the reality of that, the validity of that. But you brought up the fact that the mayoral race candidates. Now, at the time of this recording, it had not been made public, but by the time this airs, we are expecting Janice Lewis George to publicly announce her candidacy, and we're expecting King McDuffie to publicly announce his candidacy. And I think you are right. You point out something that people need to realize is that Ward 4 has created multiple mayoral candidates. From, as you said, from the Fenty to Muriel Bowser, and now Janice Lewis George, all coming out of Ward 4 council seats. In DC, we like to call that Ward Uptown. So these cats came from Uptown, but. Unlike Fenty and Muriel, Janice is actually looked at as a progressive, and we're hoping that she won't succumb to the notion that Zoran Mandani talked about in his quote of Mario Cuomo and campaigning in poetry and governing in prose, because we've already seen Mandani doing some questionable behavior already, and he hasn't even taken office by him standing against a primary challenge against apartheid Shakur Hakeem Jeffries. But having said that, uh, Janice Lewis George's track record, her voting record, stands up, unlike Robert White's, in terms of being seen as a progressive, one of the few progressives on the DC Council. So she would be the anti-establishment candidate. And then, if by virtue, then that means Kenya McDuffie would be the establishment candidate. What is your opinion and your analysis on Kenya McDuffie and his platform and his track record, and your analysis of other mayoral hopeful Janice Lewis George on her platform and her voting record?
Well, what I'll say first is that Bowser started out as a progressive. When she ran, she was one. Her first election.
Yeah,
So
if you're saying you're going to eliminate
she shifted.
homelessness.
Yeah, I don't even think progressive candidates today would come out and say that. I think that that's a bygone era. But I think that McDuffie would just be a continuation of Bowser. I think that they're pretty much on the same page. You can expect people like Mendelson to endorse him, Bowser to endorse him. And I think a lot of the people who are running the agencies will stay in place for a while, a bit. It's not going to be like Janice, where as soon as she gets in, I imagine she's asking for a bunch of people's resignations. So I think that primarily with McDuffie, like regardless of like what his voting history is and what he does, that there's that concern is that it's just going to be a continuation of the status quo, and the same government really is going to be in play, and it's going to be the government we've had since Fenty. And I think that McDuffie, like in terms of his voting, he's kind of a mixed bag. I talked to somebody else about him, and I know he had that baby bonds legislation, and he's like one of those guys who, and what I how I described him or how he was described was somebody who will wreck your present and promise you the future. And so he's done a lot of stuff with development, like he's over the economic development committee, and for most stuff he's like voted against people when it comes to like improving like renter rights, giving money away to developers through TIFs. Like he's definitely like more of the mainstream like corporate candidate versus Janice. And Janice, I think she has a more positive voting record, but also there are things that progressives do that ultimately harm black communities sometimes. And I think sometimes she falls on the wrong side of that. But I don't know if that's intentional or just not enough care is taken to ensure equity when like some progressive policies take root. Like I can think concretely of a couple examples in Ward 8. There was like a green bill that passed. Do you recall that? Come on,
No,
the
I don't.
green. Yeah, there was like some kind of green building bill. Um, and there was a green housing bill that did not pass, but then there was like a uh, another green bill. And because of that bill, Ward 8 was unable to get amenities in a much needed amenities in a community center, which, the due to the bill being passed, it increased the cost to the point where a pool and a gym were no longer feasible for two community centers that are about to be built here. And so just stuff like that like happens, that are like kind of progressive policies, and they don't really think about the fallout to them. So I mean, if I had to choose, of course it would be Janice, just because I believe that DC needs to head a new direction, and I don't think that that can happen under McDuffie.
Yeah, McDuffie's a nice guy. He was part of the signatories that led to the purchase of WEAC radio to prevent us from being displaced. So I have to publicly acknowledge that. But his track record, particularly on the Brooklyn Manor redevelopment project that would have destroyed our family-sized units, that is a problematic stain on his record, and I think he has definitely sided with the mayor far too often. And again, you said that Mira was a progressive when she ran. Again, campaigning in poetry and governing in prose. And just because the words rhyme, we should not be falling for this every time. Okay. And I do think that Janice Lewis George is obviously the more progressive of the two. But it's going to be surprising to see how that shapes up. And it's a curveball for you. Are you ready? Are you sitting down, Ari? What is the likelihood of a serious white mayoral candidate?
Well, I think if Schwab runs, he may be our next mayor. Brian Schwab, the Attorney General.
Now
Uh,
that would really shake things up. Brian Schwab, who was supposed to be, I guess, here on the DC Takeover edition of What's at Stake. We're still waiting from your office to confirm that because did get a verbal confirmation that he will appear on this program on the Anacostia Coordinating Council 32nd Annual Boat Ride. Mr. Brian Schwab, AG, thank you. No shade, but that's the first time I've heard his name mentioned in that short list. Do you know something we don't? Is some inside information here you like to share with our listening audience, RAG?
I don't have any inside information. I, I think he's doing a good job as an attorney
I
general.
do think he's doing a spectacular job as
So, and he's actually a candidate that if he ran, he's done such a good job as attorney general, he might actually get some pushback from running, because people might be scared of him being mayor. Um,
Well, hey, if Attorney Brian Schwab, Attorney General, is listening, please consider running because if nothing else, you will push a progressive agenda and force the other candidates to capitulate to that agenda and absorb and adopt some aspects of that. So I would urge him to do so because maintaining the status quo at this point should not be an option.
and if I could add something to that, I don't know what it is about DC, but it's almost like we track our mayor through the DC Council. And like the DC Council, they got like a staff of what, like 7, 10, 12 people, to like mayor, where you're like running a government with like thousands of people. I think it's a big leap from like council to mayor, and I'm not sure how we got there where that's how we track our mayoral candidates. But like AG is definitely a better fit for that. Like Brian Schwab has an office of like 700 people that he's managing, and so I don't know. I think it's just a much more natural fit for, maybe we should start looking to the AG to be our mayor, or someone else outside of council. I think council gets in merely because they're recognizable, and they become like the hot candidates. But really, when you think about their work experience, I don't know if it's best suited than even like a business person, or anybody with management leading experience managing a lot of people.
Well, in preparation for this interview, I looked up potential mayoral candidates. And some names that was shocking to me is that Elisa Silverman was on that short list. She has publicly declined. Y'all laughing. I like Elisa. We need some more independence. We're gonna close out on my Zionist rant on Mira Bowser's criticism of Mira Bowser, but having said that, Elisa could be a little bit more progressive on that front. But I like some of her policies, the progressive ones. Randy Clark, CEO of Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority. I have never heard of him. The CEO of Wadmata is on that list. And of course, Kim McDuffie. Shout out to Rhonda Hamilton, small business owner. She's an independent candidate. Just want to throw out some of the names that's actually out there. Ari, that's about our time. Do you think you want to wrap up and take us home with and any advice going forward for the mayoral race?
Well, I would just say if you're running for mayor, try and focus on, the people because I think that, I don't think it's going to be enough to just have corporate backing in this campaign. I think people are looking for something different at this point in time. So, just make the people your focus.
And your website for Stoop Law, attorney.
Uh, www.stooplaw.com.
That is Ari Teresa, stooplaw.com, specializing in zoning, land use, and urban development. He is a civil rights attorney, and we are so honored to have him here. And thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you, Ari.
Thanks for having me. Come on.
Now, before Mayor Bowser destroyed Black Lives Matter Plaza at the behest of the fascist Trump regime and welcomed the DC takeover, she became the first sitting DC mayor to visit apartheid Israel when she led a delegation of 40 stakeholders for a 5-day mission that included meetings with tech and cybersecurity companies. This occurred shortly after the launch of a nonstop flights between Dulles International Airport and Tel Aviv. The primary goals were to attract foreign direct investment into the district. Joining the delegation were representatives from business, government, and community sectors, according to a press release from the Executive Office of the Mayor and DC Chamber of Commerce, which explains why the Wilson building that houses the mayor's office and DC Council was lit up in honor of apartheid Israel after October 7th, but couldn't even pass a resolution for a ceasefire for 2 entire years during the height of the genocide. The Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington actively campaigned against the council passing such a resolution, claiming it would disrupt government functions. This is too part of the legacy of DC Mayor, 3-time term, Mayor Bowser. We'll be right back after more of these messages after this break. This is the DC Takeover edition of What's at Stake. And I'm your guest host, Kimon Freeman. We see you on the other side of this. Thank you for listening.